I'd like to start here in Vegas as Swag returns from his faithful trip down there. And the big nation story would be Gonzaga going 0 for 2 in both of their conference championships. Now, one is a little unusual, one's a little less unusual, but both are unusual.
Yeah, usually. Well, what Mark Few has done is insane. It was their 27th consecutive appearance in the conference championship game.
They've won 10 of the last 11.
So, yeah, they
are
are 20-7 now. St. Mary's won the regular season, and I think it was 2011 the last time somebody not named Gonzaga won the regular season and the conference title.
Got both of them.
Swept them, and it wasn't Gonzaga.
That's wild. This Gonzaga team, though, leading up to this game, had been playing a ton better. They kind of started out okay, and they hit the big slump in the middle, but then they rattle off 15 in a row, something like that, including housing St. Mary's at the end of the year.
Yeah, they got them. They ended St. Mary's. St. Mary's at that point had the longest winning streak in the country for men, and they ended that on the final night of the regular season in Moraga.
And I love it when it's like this. Now, I am a GU honk. I was born in Spokane. I was baptized at church, St. Al's. You know, everybody knows the famous Jack and Dan's Tavern.
Oh, yeah.
That's a Spokane. That's like one of the few things I hold on from being a Spokaneite. But I love WCC basketball, Swag. I know you do, Will. You do now.
I've come around.
As well. So this is something that I'm always interested in, especially with Oregon State and Washington State going to play basketball with them next year. This is an exciting time. I like it when it's not just Gonzaga rolling through. I like it when St. Mary's is good. I like what I've seen from the rest of the conference.
Yeah, I was disappointed. I thought we might get an upset in the semifinals. I thought Santa Clara and San Francisco had enough and San Francisco hung with Gonzaga through most of the first half. But then Ben Gregg got hot shooting threes. And the difference for Gonzaga was when they put Ben Gregg into the starting lineup. Few kept him on the bench because he wanted the energy. He doesn't have as deep a bench this year as he's had in the past. He wanted a little scoring punch and a little bit of energy coming off the bench. But he found it worked better in the starting lineup. And they can – now with Greg and Anton Watson, they have some length to go out if they want to press, if they want to trap, really make things difficult and turn up the pace. They played at a really slow pace for them early in the non-conference, and now they've got things back up to the pace that they want, and it certainly helps that Nolan Hickman and Ben Gregg started shooting it a lot better as the season went on because they had some games where they couldn't hit threes early on.
Well, Swag, I want to ask you this question because you're Mr. Pilot, right?
Yes.
And you're starting to become Mr. WCC. Was St. Mary's winning and they won the regular season and they won the tournament, and it feels like every single year now it's kind of them and Gonzaga trading off wins.
Since the WCC tournament that went to Vegas like 15 years ago, there's only 3 teams that have ever made the championship game, and one of them's in a different conference now.
Right, they're not even
BYU,
there.
Gonzaga, and St. Mary's. That's it.
So is it more that St. Mary's and San Francisco, Santa Clara knocked off Gonzaga this year? Are they catching up to Gonzaga, or is Gonzaga taking a step back?
Gonzaga has come back a hair. And I believe it relates to Tommy Lloyd taking the Arizona job. Tommy Lloyd was really dialed in. A lot of those international recruits that you saw come into Gonzaga, Tommy Lloyd had a hand in. You saw Umar Ballo, who was supposed to be their next big great center at Spokane. He went with them to Arizona, and they haven't found a true replacement. Now, they do have a freshman they bring in, Braden Huff. He was on the All-WCC freshman team.
Right.
He has signs and potential of growing into something down the road. He's still a little raw, still gets a little excited at times, but he's got tremendous offensive skill. Big old 6'11" lefty, and he can step out and hit a three. So if they can develop him the way they've developed other guys over the years, then they should be right back in it.
Yeah, to Swag's point, if you watch Arizona, it reeks of Gonzaga basketball. It really does. It's not the Arizona that I grew up with.
Right.
And it's not even the Sean Miller, here's a bag that we saw most recently.
We're going to get stars.
No, it reeks a lot like Gonzaga. I also think Gonzaga loses. It's hard for them to stay as consistent because they got one and doners every year, it feels like. whether they should be or shouldn't be.
Yeah.
You go Suggs and Holmgren back to back. That's tough. You don't get the dudes like they used to that stuck around for 2 or 3 years.
Derek Ravios.
I mean, even like, dude, class of 2003.
Morrison's.
But like you don't get the Drew Timmies like you used to.
Yeah.
That guy hung around, and we were surprised he hung around for his 1 extra year. So I think that's part of it. Also, I just think this is kind of a rebuilding year for him. Mm-hmm. However, I think this is usually where some of the most dangerous Gonzaga is.
Yeah.
When they're not a 1 seed, when they're not expected, because few can coach.
Right.
I mean, I don't love them against some of the big coaches, as I've said many times, as I've watched Roy Will, Scott Drew, and Coach K run circles around him. He can coach. And if Gonzaga sneaks in at a 7 seed or a 9 seed, boy, you better pray you got Purdue.
Well, yeah, they finally figured out who they were. And then Nembhard, the younger Nembhard brother that came in this year, I think he's finally figured out Mark Few's offense. Took him a while.
Yeah.
And now he's confident. He's not thinking out there. He's just going. He's the fastest guy dribbling the basketball I've seen in college basketball this year. So if they can get rebounds and get out in transition, that's where they kill you. And with Greg and Watson out there on the wings, big old wingspans,
yeah,
they get a lot of deflections, a lot of steals. That's where they want to go.
Watson's been kind of the guy for them of late. We'll get out of this real quick because I want to give the local team some love and let that have some fresh air. Swag real quick. St. Mary's in the tournament. I feel like this is a team that nobody is going to give credit for. They don't shoot the 3 very well.
They're shooting it better. They've got a problem. They lost it. Actually, the injury happened here when they came to Portland. Joshua Jefferson, who was their 4. He was playing the 4. Really athletic, but probably one of their best defenders. And he could get physical out on the perimeter with guys. He was 6'8", about 230. Started shooting okay from 3 in the corner, but he went down with a knee injury. He's done for the season. So they had to put Luke Barrett, who's their super sub, total hustle guy, into the starting lineup. So Coach Bennett never really goes too deep in the rotation, but it's a real short now. I think they're getting Harry Wessels back, their backup center, who's a 7'1" Aussie, who's just a beast. They will be all about matchups.
Starters minutes in that game, in the championship game, 35, 36, 40, 40, 36.
Yeah. And he'll do that. He's got no problems.
We're playing ball today.
It's not hockey.
Yeah, we're playing ball today.
You're playing the entire time.
Yeah.
But they can
because
they play slow.
they control the pace.
Right.
That they're not running up and down. So the trick for them is because the guards, it's Augustus Marciulionis, who is Sharonis's son, for NBA, people that love the NBA. And then Aiden Mahoney. They are a bit slight. So if you face a Power 5 school that's got some big old rugged guards, like if they get Baylor, I mean, Baylor's good to begin with, but they play real physical. Houston plays real physical. If they get them, if St. Mary's is a 7 seed or an 8 seed, and they get them as a 1 or 2 seed, that's what's going to be difficult for them. It'll be all about matchups.
All right, well, that is the men's side of the WCC tournament as St. Mary's hangs on to win. Well, I shouldn't say hang on. They kind of had that game. Defeats Gonzaga to be the first team in a long time to be regular season and WCC champs. This is a fascinating conference. I watch it in my own private life, and I can't wait to add Wazoo and Oregon State to it.
I think it's going to be good for those schools, too, because you're still getting a quality brand of basketball as compared to the Pac-12. I mean, shoot.
Gonzaga didn't leave for the Big 12. That's a huge thing.
Right. The WCC is going to probably get the same amount of teams in the tournament this year that the Pac-12 does.
Yep.
So are you really taking a step back? I wouldn't
No,
say
if anything,
so.
you might be loading that conference up. And I'd like to spend some time on that later this week, kind of talk about the overall larger ramifications of Oregon State and Washington State getting into the WCC with St. Mary's, with an up-and-comer like Santa Clara and San Francisco.